Hello viewer, the Nameless Scholar here, and it's been a while since I did one of these, haven't it? Well, let's get to it then. Trench Crusade is a setting that appeals to very few people. It doesn't appeal to the Rightoids because the company made it clear that they hate them. It doesn't appeal to the Christians because the developers made it clear it is not a Christian setting, in a setting where the mortal forces of hell fight against Christendom and Dar al-Islam. It doesn't appeal to Muslims half the time because not only is it sacrilegious, but they also consider it to be Islamophobic. It doesn't appeal to leftists because when the map was released, it was deemed racist by them. Now I will admit, Trench Crusade's artwork looks gorgeous. And Trench Crusade only applies to the following: people who just think the art is cool and they get to it that way, people easily amused by edge, atheists who don't care how bad both Islamic and Christian theology is being butchered, and Ottoman boos. Even though, given that Byzantium is in ruins, what would be Ottomans in our history wouldn't even be the Ottomans, because the Iron Sultanate would be more akin to a merging of the Turks and the Persians. People easily amused by Edge don't care about how stupid of an idea the Metachrist is, where the Vatican cloned Jesus of Nazareth and made a council of him, where they literally eat his flesh and drink from his blood in the Eucharist. They don't care about how the Iron Sultanate creates homunculi, even though according to Islam only Allah can create, and to create is to commit shirk, the one sin that Allah does not forgive. They don't care that the heretic legions having naval supremacy, quote-unquote, means that they merely control the Mediterranean Sea. The Atlantic Ocean? From the map and how wide Christendom is, it is easy to assume that they control more of the Atlantic, or at least their side of it, than the heretic legions having general naval supremacy. It is even less plausible if the developers decide to introduce something like Native American or Mesoamerican factions. In fact, before I continue, let's play devil's advocate and throw them a bone. Let's say that the forces of hell have also invaded North America and have taken a foothold over the East Coast. Fair enough, that would merely mean that the Atlantic Ocean is contested, because I'm sorry, controlling Gibraltar is not enough to control the entirety of the Atlantic Ocean. Controlling Gibraltar is enough to control only the Mediterranean Sea, so that would not mean that the heretic legions have naval supremacy overall. Not only that, jet fighters are a thing in the setting, and once you gain air supremacy, you win the battle. Not only that, they still don't control the Greek Isles, they don't control Cyprus of all places, they don't control Malta, Crete, Rhodes, and they definitely don't control Sardinia and Corsica. If they really did have naval supremacy, then why haven't the heretic navy gained a foothold over these like they did with Gibraltar? Devil's advocate aside, they don't care that the original Gate of Hell appeared in Jerusalem, the holy city of Yahweh, a city that is important to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam at the same time. They just think that it looks cool, edgy, and grim dark enough. They stick with it, they either don't care about the issues or they will do mental gymnastics to justify them. But you might say that I have no right to talk about Edge because I like the Night Lords. That the Heretic Legions, and they are the same thing because they are also wearing Flayed skin. Well, there is a difference between the faction that mostly hates the Dark Gods, shuns those who fell to chaos, and blatantly say, yes, we genocided them. Yes, they deserved it. Yes, we will do it again, than the mortals whom have pledged themselves to the force of hell because they are the worst of the worst that humanity has to offer. Both are honest in their evil, yes, but to claim that they are the same or similar for it is a misunderstanding of both factions at best and outright fallacious at worst. That would be like saying just because I like the Night Lords, it means that I must also like Sasuke Uchiha, even though I hate Naruto, and I hate Sasuke even more. The Night Lords do the things they do because they see the worst in everything. The Imperium is no better than they are. Chaos is no better than the Imperium. The Xenos are an existential threat to all, and because of it they trust little, they conclude that there is no hope, so the only answer to the galaxy is hatred and terror. The Heretic Legions, on the other hand, pledge themselves willingly to the Evil One for whatever their biggest worldly desires are: wealth, the most gorgeous of women, supernatural power. So, two different things. Trench Crusade is a setting that wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to be something like Ironsworn or Starforged, where it is a sandbox that you can make your own truths about how the world came to be, how it is with the lore that is given to the player. That is alright and all. What is not alright is that the devs also included the tools that they gave the players to make their sandbox into the things that the player can use into the ever-shifting sandbox itself. They say that the forces of hell are giving Christendom a hard time when the map shows otherwise, with no indicators that the Heretic Legions actually having naval supremacy except controlling Gibraltar. But as they have stated before, controlling Gibraltar means to control the Mediterranean Sea, and considering artillery and jet fighters and their bombardment, that's a rather moot point. So, having a sandbox where the players mainly make up how the world came to be the way it is fine. What is not fine is saying, we were always at war with Eurasia, East Asia was always our ally one time, then claim, we were always at war with East Asia, Eurasia was always our ally the next. If the tools that you give to establish your own canon is ever shifting as the setting itself, then nothing matters. Once you establish something, it must make sense in the logic of the world within it. When you don't do that, you get the reflection cracked. A book that is universally despised by fans that assassinates Fulgrim's character. And if you are doing it with an agenda like the developers of Trench Crusade, it becomes what Baldur's Gate 3 did to Viconia Devir, turning a fan-favorite character into a mustache-twirling villain to elevate Shadowheart. You get what Rocksteady did to Batman in the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And the logical conclusion of the everything and nothing is canon mindset is the final nail in the coffin of its franchise, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, where the throne of the Maker was always empty, where the bride of the Maker is now possessing Morrigan, and what became a grimdark narrative of a hope beyond hope have been stopped by a team of strong, independent, stunning, brave, and diverse group of individuals. This is why, in the lore, New Antioch is described as superstitious techno-barbarians who couldn't reclaim Avignon for centuries. And despite New Antioch having power armor, Thompsons, and jet fighters, the Iron Sultan is still described as technologically superior, and Islam's golden age never ended. Even though the Iron Sultanate dabbles in alchemy and thaumaturgy, the latter of which is sacrilegious against Allah, they still use muskets or worse, flintlock weapons. But all of these have one root cause. I agree that Trench Crusade is made with one purpose alone: malice. It is nothing short of a malicious attempt at a cash grab. Because the examples I gave and what Trench Crusade does is nothing short of gaslighting. They don't say that the Iron Sultanate has superior technology because they actually do, or because the Iron Sultanate is too arrogant to admit that New Antioch is technologically superior. No, the developers say so to appeal to the Ottoman boos with the Janissary aesthetic, and the fantasy that Islam's golden age never ended. This is the Games Workshop equivalent of releasing the Leagues of Votan in such a busted state on tabletop, then nerfing them in less than 24 hours, to make it so in their lore that not only do they have technological superiority over the Imperium, to the point they have artificial intelligence that does not come to the conclusion of all sapient life must be destroyed. The Leagues of Votann was a bad faith attempt to earn quick money. And while I was pondering about Trench Crusade and about what am I going to say in this video, an epiphany came to me. This is what Games Workshop also did when they released Warhammer The Old World. And after contemplating about Trench Crusade, the epiphany was why I actually dislike the old world so much. And if you're a long-time viewer of mine, ever since I did that Warhammer 40k didn't lose its grimdark, it lost its soul video, you would know why. The reason why I actually dislike the old world so much is simple. Malice. Both Trench Crusade and the old world is nothing short of a cash grab to get your money and then spit on your face. Games Workshop treats fantasy with complete and utter contempt alongside its fanbase. They saw the success of Space Marine 2 and the opportunity to appeal to the normies and saw their shot at mainstreaming 40k. They don't want the graybeards that fell in love with the John Blanche era of 40k and fantasy. They don't want the fantasy graybeards buying their products. Instead, they want to delegate them to Creative Assembly with Total War Warhammer, so they will not complain about Age of Sigmar for the umpteenth time, and instead buy the next DLC CA releases. And what they are doing with Grand Cathay is Games Workshop's attempt to enter into the Chinese market, which is why Warhammer The Old World is a skin crawler that wears fantasy skin while destroying what made Rapunzeliones meaningful. Meanwhile, Trench Crusade tried to appeal to leftoids and they failed. The only market they found somewhat of a success in was the Turkish market. But even then, tabletop wargaming is very niche, obscure, and very expensive, even with 3D printing there. Because, as Battlefield 1 proved to everyone, the biggest Ottoman boos are the Turks themselves. But even then, it is nothing short of an insult to be gaslit by a Westerner who thinks he knows better than the poor, oppressed Muslims. Until the Turks start denying a certain traumatic event involving World War I, that is. Which is why Trench Crusade is malicious. Unlike Games Workshop, whom have always hated their fanbase from day one, and have been honest about it, which is also malicious but honest at least, Trench Crusade gaslights its customers, then sells them what they want to see, not what actually is. This is exactly why they say that the Iron Sultanate is technologically superior to New Antioch, while New Antioch has power armor and jet fighters. Meanwhile, the Iron Sultanate is still stuck using muskets, but they are still better at alchemy and thaumaturgy. That is another thing with Trench Crusade. Not only does it gaslight, it lies by omission. For example, saying that the Heretic Legions have naval supremacy, but in where in particular? In particular, the gates of, well, the Mediterranean Sea, because they control Gibraltar, not general naval supremacy. The Iron Sultanate is technologically superior to New Antioch. But in what way? Well, they are technologically superior in the field of alchemy and thaumaturgy. So, Trench Crusade appeals to only certain groups of individuals because people are tired of getting gaslit, which is why I don't like Trench Crusade, and just like Warhammer The Old World, it was dead on arrival. Well, anyways, guys, this is going to be it for this video. I would have said more. I could have gone on for hours upon like everything wrong with the lore and the setting, but it has already been done to death and then some. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on this topic. I hope you enjoyed this rant. It's been a long while since I did one of these. So, like the Dark Angels would say, never forget, never forgive. And I would have much rather still preferred to have 40k burn in its own end times than live to see the abomination as turned into today and have Trench Crusade be the way it is